everybody to season 1, episode 2 of the Kelvin Roundtable. Again, with me is my co-host Ryan Souders, and of course, always along with us, Jeff Febus. Our first segment brought to you by Meyer, one of our title sponsors. We're always thrilled that they have committed to us and kept us moving forward even during these tough times. So we want to thank Meyer for this first segment. As our segments go, Ryan and I like to talk a little bit about sports, a little bit about life as around Calvin's campus. And we have 3 different segments, and we're going to get started right away. Ryan, the first segment I'm calling sports, ? And I guess I want to start out by this is, where is sports now in the American landscape? That's a big question, given COVID. And we can start with pro and move down to college. What do you think?
Man, first of all, it's great to be back. Episode 2 at the round table. That is a great question. I think my own answer individually changes week to week. I mean, as you know, I'm a big pro sports fan, Chicago guy, Cubs season ticket holder, attended 0 games this year. And I think for a while, we craved sports so deeply and wanted it back. And now that it is, and it looks a little bit differently, I feel like we're trying to figure out our own day-to-day lives. So I don't know. I mean, Jim, I'm curious your thoughts on this. What is the role of sport right now? Where are sports headed? I mean, obviously different times, but, for a while it seemed like sports kind of brought us out of things. Where do you see us with them now?
It's really interesting. As you know, I love history, and I love thinking about, most of the time that sport has brought us through wars or really tough times in cities. I think like Tigers in 1968 with the civil unrest and civil rights movement, and how that kind of got through the city. That's why Willie Horton has a statue there. This one seems strange to me. I don't know. I get excited to come even to watch your team or our team's inter-squad scrimmage, but it wears off quicker. And it seems like there's a little black cloud, but I don't want to say, I can't imagine what if we didn't have sports to talk about. Because, we talk about the bubble, we talk about, the U.S. Open in golf, and we're going to have a Super Bowl. And so I know we want to talk about it, but it just doesn't feel the same as when we're maybe it's because we're not as united right now around the issue as we usually are around a national emergency. I don't know if you're feeling that way.
Yeah, I think for sure there. I mean, right? We'd be lying if we said there weren't maybe some political questions or things that might weigh into that. I think one of the positives that I've seen as a coach, at least, is maybe not on a national level of interest in fandom, but like I think athletes are more invested and involved in sports than they have been in a while. Is that it was taken away for a little bit, and I think at least our athletes at Calvin, their investment is so huge, and maybe that's it. They feel like there's not time to follow the professional sports. I don't know. It's a curious one for me. I wish there was an answer.
Right.
Sports have done some great things, right? You see, lots of leagues and individuals for calls of justice. You see bringing actions into politics, faith engagements from athletes. I think never been a larger platform for athletes.
Yeah.
And I think a good thing, but maybe sometimes that takes away from the sport too. I don't know. I think there's a lot of different variables, certainly.
No, and it always interests me as much as I work in sport as a practitioner. I still like to sometimes be a critic of sport and think, man, what are we doing? And that's one of our segments. But you referenced what's going on your team, and my second topic tonight for us is a thing I want to call goals. Now, we could go with the goals as in soccer, but they're not goals. They're kind of like, what are our goals? And I broke it down into 3 things, and we're really going to stay with intercollegiate athletics here. And I want what's your take on what is the goal? What are our goals for coaches right now? Let's just specifically say fall coaches. I don't care if it's Division 1, 2, or 3. We're talking intercollegiate sports. What are you trying to do, but what do you think coaches are trying to do? And for some they're playing, and some they're only practicing. And what would be your goal, and maybe what would you extrapolate that to other coaches?
Yeah, I think they're probably multifaceted. Our first goal is we want to be together, socially distant and respectfully. And, we're fortunate Calvin's testing, so that allows us for maybe some liberties that maybe other institutions don't have. But that's our first goal, is just be together. We were not able to have a spring season. Obviously, many or none of our sports were really able to have spring season. So I think just being together, there's something about being together that's special. I think the second one is we want to cast a vision for where we're headed. I think that's the biggest thing over and over again that we're telling our guys is this is what this is for. This is what we're after, be it this spring 2021, Lord willing, or something down the road, fall 2020, that like our program vision doesn't change because of COVID in terms of who we are, what we're after. And so I think our young men and women need to be constantly reminded of that. So we want to be together. We want to cast a vision. And then I think the third thing is we want to compete, even if it's just against ourselves. I think part of sport that is so different from other things is that there are winners and losers. You want to get out. You want to show your best. And so we're doing that in various different ways. Obviously, we're intra-squatting, but I think we're doing fun competitive games in training. We've maybe done that a little differently than other programs with certain drills that we have and different rewards and those kind of things. But I think all of our coaches to some degree would say we want to be together. We want to cast a vision of where we're headed because there seems like there's so much uncertainty. So I think as a coach, I want to be very clear about where we're going. And then we want to compete. If we're doing those things, we're probably growing. We're probably having fun. So certainly different goals than the ones with like 30 O's that you're used to. Maybe listening to in La Liga games. But I think in talking with some of my coaching colleagues as well, like we're all after some form of those things.
Yeah, I'll put it back to me. When we start talking about athletics, I have a little broader vision, maybe as an athletic director, and I've asked myself, what do we want to try to accomplish this fall and through this year? And I think there's the stuff that you talked about. Our goals don't change for the student athlete and their experience. Now, the things that we don't have a game, but we have practice. We don't have this, but we might have something else to accomplish those goals. But there's some part of me of just saying, as an athletic department, we just want to keep going. We want to be a presence. We want to be, for athletics at Calvin, I do think it's integral to our campus life. And I want to say, one of my goals is let's just keep it going. And it's as difficult as fall as we've been through, but the rewards are there to see our kids. And I'm shocked how hard your kids and all our teams, when I watch them play inter squad, I'm thinking, man, these kids are getting after it. And that makes me proud. But I think it's all part of just keeping going and going forward.
Let me interrupt you. Sorry, ask you this. So I see it kind of within a bubble as a coach with our team, and then a couple of other colleagues, and we talk about their teams. How do you feel about it as an administrator, kind of generally up line a bit, and then as a faculty member? What are the role of sports institutionally for our students? I mean, I know you talk about keep going. What do they provide us institutionally? What do they provide our programs? I mean, what are you seeing at kind of a 30,000 foot level that, to be honest, I'm probably losing a few degrees in a day-by-day interaction?
That I'm a big believer in obviously I've dedicated my life to it in that idea of athletics plays an integral role on campus for community. It allows very talented, athletically talented kids to pursue something with passion in an environment. In our case, a very a Christian-filled environment. And so, like when I look at it and say, what would a college campus be without sports? I think you see across the nation, people have struggled with that. And I don't think, some people say, well, maybe sport leaves college campuses now. I think it's just the opposite. I think it will cement them in because those traditions, those community builders, those rallying cries tend to unite even in a very divided country. Well, Ryan, we're going to keep moving and we'll have this last one. And this last segment is, I've taken phrases that you and I say to each other during a week or during a year. And one of them is We say you were either wrong now or you were wrong then. You were wrong now or you were wrong then. It's kind of a frustration of when, Tony Fauci, right? He was either wrong now or he's wrong then. Now, I know that's a terrible example right now when talking about masks, but that would be an example of one. I'll give you another example, right?
Man, blew him out of the gate. Jeez.
How about this? Mitch Trubisky, Chicago Bears, the 5-1 Chicago Bears. I don't know. We're going to have Annie Needs on here in a little bit. I don't know if she's a Bears fan from Peru, Illinois, but Mitch Trubisky, either the Bears are wrong when they picked him or by not playing him. I mean, you got to know what you have at this point, right? So there's an example. You can give me 10 seconds on Mitch Trubisky, and if they were wrong now or wrong then.
I don't have to. They were wrong then. We never should have drafted him. I said it from day one. Nick Foles is back. We are 5-1. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I am mixing and serving it, Jim. I mean, how your Lions beat Saxonville. That's about what you guys have going for you.
We had to beat the guy with the bad mustache, Minshew, or what his name is. I can't remember. All right, my second one. You were wrong now or you were wrong then. Big Ten athletics. What changed from August to October? Either you were wrong then or you're wrong bringing Big Ten sports back. In fact, you're not bringing all Big Ten sports. I know your colleagues in soccer and some other sports. What do you think about the Big Ten?
Jim, I'm going to punt on this one for two reasons. I don't have a dog in the fight in the Big Ten. I don't really care. Yeah. And I think you asked this question so that you could answer whether you were wrong then or wrong now. So, as a Wolverine who went to Calvin, has never done anything at Michigan, has no real association with Michigan.
My dad's a graduate.
Why don't you give us your take?
Well, we're going to have Coach Diemer on, and he's here's my thing. I don't think there's a right answer here because I think it moves so fast when we start asking those questions.
You sound like Wilbon. You're not taking a side.
I know. Because I look at it and go, maybe they were right then and they're right now. It could be of varying degrees. I guess I'm going to err on the side of I'm going to support my fellow athletic administrators. They were trying to do the best by the people, and now they're trying to do the best by people. And I think we won't be able to answer that question. My final, you were wrong now or you were wrong then. And this one takes a little bit of imagination. The NCAA championship fields in Division III are being reduced. Let's say they get rid of automatic qualifiers and just take the 35 best players. Is that wrong? Or would you say, hey, their idea of having every conference gets a bid is a wrong thing, or is it right thing to do?
I think you're wrong now. I don't think you're wrong then. I mean, and I'm someone that gets fired up about the Pool C or at-large bids, but I think there's something special about competing in an NCAA tournament, and there's enough opportunities for coaches to go and get themselves those bids. And I may be talking out of both sides of my mouth. I've been upset in the past, where we were a bubble team, but I think there's something special, otherwise I just think you have to make it very clear if you're going to take away at-larges as to reason why you're doing that. I think Division III tries to model itself athletically after Division I and II. And so to be given AQs at that level and not ours would be tough to understand. But I think if there's sound reasoning, the committee could work through it. I don't know when were they wrong, or are you going to come out here and say, I'll wait to see what they do and then I'll make a decision as well?
No, I think I want the best teams in. And,
he's disagreeing. Okay.
So, hey, fun segment here. We're going to move on to our next segment with Jeff Febus. All right, we're back with the first segment that Jeff Febus, our sports information director, does with us. This segment brought to you by In On Time, matching your requirements and your needs to our fleet and warehouses gives you the flexibility you're looking for in a logistics provider. Unmatched service reliability makes In On Time your complete logistics solution. This week's segment by Jeff Febus is called Febus's Tales of Family Traditions at Calvin. Jeff, give us some family traditions.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jim. You had given me this assignment to kind of come up with one of these family connections of Calvin knighthood, so to speak. And there's a lot of examples, and perhaps we can touch on some of the others down the road. But the one that I chose is the Cappell family. And there are so many rich little nuggets in the family when it comes to Calvin athletics. And I think just to be proper, we'll start with ladies first. So it's the daughters, or the sisters. We'll get to their father in a bit. But Jill Cappell and Paige Cappell, who are actually the second all-time leading sister tandem in Calvin women's soccer history. Might get to that all-time leading tandem at another point down the road. But combined, Jill and Paige Cappell had 327 career points, 126 goals. Jill is the all-time Calvin leader. I'd kind of forgotten about this, in assists with 49 in her career. Did a year of track, actually, her freshman year back in 2004. I had to look that one up. I just remember her running the 400 meters. She actually took 6th in the conference meet as a freshman. Just did it the 1 year. Probably the only time she's ever run, at a high school or college level in track. So I always gave her a lot of props for stepping outside her comfort zone, probably because she had played high school soccer all throughout her spring career. But yeah, she was an All-American as a senior, a 2-time league MVP. Helped the women's soccer team go to the national tournament in 2015 and in 2016. In fact, helped Calvin get to the national quarterfinals her senior year in 2006. Then younger sister Paige played from 2012 through 2015, and she was a 3-time first-team All-League selection in soccer, led the league in scoring in both 2015 and 2014. And her senior year helped Calvin advance all the way, like her older sister, to the national quarterfinals in women's soccer. And she was an all-region selection. So they are the daughters of Barry Cappell, who's the 1977 Calvin graduate. And Barry's quite a distinctive Calvin athlete. Of course, he kind of was part of that Mark Veenstra tradition that came into Calvin. They were high school teammates at Unity Christian High School. They were part of that Unity Christian team that a lot of people out here in Hudsonville, where I live, still talk about today, that went undefeated all the way to the state finals, where they lost a heartbreaker to Dearborn Divine Child, which was coached by the legendary Bill McCartney, who a lot of people remember went on to be an assistant football coach at the University of Michigan, head coach at the University of Colorado, and then the founder of Promise Keepers. So Barry went on to be a 4-year basketball player for the Calvin men's basketball team, played alongside Mark Veenstra, and I just did the 4-year combination record. They were 74-15 during those 4 years, had 4 straight MIAA titles, and they were part of the last group in MIAA athletics history during this lengthy period that were not allowed to compete in the NCAA tournament in team competition. In fact, the year after they finished up, the ban was lifted, and of course, Albion promptly went to the NCAA Final Four in men's basketball. Barry was an all-conference first-team selection, 1977. I think one of the most distinctive moments of his career, a lot of people have talked about this one. Mark Veenstra had 56 points, which was the all-time single-game scoring record for a number of years, and it was in a 109-108 double overtime win at Adrian at the Old Ridge Gymnasium, which was kind of down in a pit, a hole. Jim would remember that.
Well.
Yeah, you played down there. And they were down, Calvin, by a couple of points with about 2 seconds left in regulation. And our former women's track and women's basketball coach, who was an All-American javelin thrower, Greg Appman, who happened to be the point guard on that team, threw a length of the court pass that Mark Veenstra laid in at the buzzer to send it to overtime. So then in overtime, it goes back and forth. Barry Cappell hits a turnaround jumper from about 15 feet on the baseline at the buzzer to win the game, 109-108. And that was part of a key win that helped them win the MIAA title that year. So that was quite something. So what Barry didn't get to do is play in the NCAA tournament, but his 2 younger brothers, Bruce and Brad Cappell, both got to do it. And of course, leave it to little brother, who I'll get to at the end, to cap it all off with something that they never got to do. Bruce played at Calvin from 78 through 82. He was an all-conference first-team selection in 1982, part of MIAA championship teams in 1980 and 81, both were teams that were NCAA tournament teams. In fact, he was part of that Calvin team in 81 that played Hope 4 times and had that infamous playoff game to determine
at Middleville High School
to determine the NCAA tournament representative from the MIAA. And Calvin won that on, I think it was a Tuesday night, maybe it was a Wednesday night. And then after winning that game by 2 points, Calvin had to go right down to Wittenberg University, where they lost a couple of days later. One of the other interesting fun facts.
Tuesday night, Jeff.
What's that?
It was a Tuesday night because it was a school night and I wasn't allowed to go.
There you go. So, and of course, your dad was an assistant coach back then. Bruce's son, Matt Cappell, has the distinction, and I was there, and I think you were too, of scoring the first ever points in a basketball game at Vennord Arena. Some people might remember that there was a JV basketball game. I think it was on a Tuesday night, the night before we had our first varsity games, and that was against Trine. I can't remember who that JV game was against. It was not against Trine, but the first 2 points of the game were scored by Matt Cappell, who was on the Calvin men's JV team that year. And how appropriate that someone with those rich Calvin bloodlines scored the first 2 points in our beautiful arena. And then last but not least is Brad, as we call him, Big Mama Cappell, who was the backup post player on Calvin's 1992 National Championship men's basketball team. Brad is currently a painter in his post-Calvin career, and very appropriate that he is, because he did a lot of good work down in the paint as a 6'6" power forward backup post player. And, we saw those folks, Brad, Bruce, and Barry, sometimes combine on these Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball teams for a number of years. They always did extremely well in the half court. So there you have it, the Cappell family. What a rich tradition in Calvin athletics history.
Thanks, Jeff. That's a wonderful thing. How you have all that down, and you had to research a little bit. I know my intersection with that family has always been really just been a great experience. I played golf in and around them at Sunnybrook Country Club, and the Cappells were great. The men were at choosing teammates. Brad Cappell played with Steve Hondard, and Barry played with Mark Veenstra. That's a good time to go to Calvin when those guys are going over there to play. So I think they did a good job. Coach Souders, you had a chance you knew Jill in a different way, I think, but also have seen her play, and you were around when Paige played. Any thoughts? My only thought on Jill was she was one of the best at Calvin that I've seen at going to get the ball in the air for a women's soccer player on corner kicks. I always thought we had a good chance when she was in there. So any reflections on Paige and Jill? Have you known them?
No, it's interesting. Jill actually lived with my wife, Casey, before she got married, and obviously before Case got married. So we would talk soccer, but as I got to know Jill and Paige, it was significantly more off of the field than on the field. And that's how I've gotten to know their dad, Barry, even. And so, one of the things I think, you talk about rich family bloodlines in terms of excellence on the athletic pitch, court, pool, track, whatever. One of the other things, I think, just an incredibly high character quality family. And that was more my takeaway, is just, people that you're proud to associate as alums of the institution or alums of your program or whatever. So certainly competitive. And I got to see that with Jill and Paige, certainly, but even more just high charactered and really proud, that they are alums, not only of the institution, but specifically from the soccer wing, to be honest with you.
Well, super. Our next segment will be an interview with Coach Brian Diemer, and that will be followed by an interview with his star senior Annie Needs. So we'll be resetting it for that in just a few minutes.
I'm here by Calvin head men's and women's cross country coach Brian Diemer here on the Calvin Roundtable Podcast, and this interview is brought to you by Verde Vogue Heating and Cooling. Verde Vogue Heating and Cooling has served West Michigan for 54 years. They are a leading heating and cooling contractor and the best choice for your home. They install quality systems and back them up with guarantees to protect your investment. Contact us today for a free estimate at www.verdevogue.com. So, Brian, joining us here on the interview. Thanks for stopping in. And, Yeah, it's you've had a cross country season so far. You're one of the teams that are out there doing it. Just your thoughts on recalibrating and regathering together and having a season in the midst of this pandemic that we're in.
It has been a wonderful season. We have had a lot of growth and a lot of development. And this last meet in Muskegon this past Saturday just showed that we have really done a great job this fall of developing and stretching out and becoming so much better than what we could have done without a season.
So just we'll talk about the women's side because you're touching a little bit about on the teams here. Our guest on the show this evening is Annie Needs, and she had a tremendous race on Saturday. I think you guys had 9 of the top 10 spots. You had a team score of 17 points. She led the way, had a time of 18:14, which is her fastest time in cross country on a 5K course by nearly 10 seconds. And I know courses kind of vary, so sometimes comparing times from course to course or race to race can be a little arbitrary, but still a tremendous race for her. And, we had talked over the weekend on what kind of a race she ran. Can you just describe what type of race tactically that she ran, how she put it all together?
Well, Annie is really maturing as a racer. And, that started, of course, with getting in shape, putting the work in over the summer and actually over the last spring as well to just be fit. And so she has found out that she has more in her tank than what she ever realized before. And so she's daring to stretch herself out a little bit more and just running with more courage. And it was really neat on Saturday. There was a woman who went out really strong, and Annie and Sadie went along with her, but this woman just stretched them out, and they were at the point where they could have broken off and just not being able to stick with that kind of pace and just get too far away. Once you lose contact, it's really hard to get it back. But Annie is almost like she threw out a bungee cord and just rode with that girl probably about it even got out to be about 20 meters behind her, but never let it get away. And so that shows the maturity that she stuck with it. She believed it. And all of a sudden she started pulling closer and closer to that woman. And then as she got up with her, she counter surged and started putting on some pressure of her own. And so I just don't remember Annie as doing that kind of racing before. It's always been, hey, hang on with what you have, and whatever ends up in the wash is what you get. But she put a counter surge in, and that woman just tried like crazy to hang with, could not hang with Annie. And then Annie was, after about 3/4 of a mile of her trying to hang with her, she broke her, and going down a hill and then going up another hill, and they still had 600 meters to the finish line. So it was a beautiful race, very mature racing. Annie has really, really grown and developed.
Well, she's part of a really solid 1-2 punch for your team up front. You mentioned Sadie Herringa, and Sadie took first place in the opening invitational of the year that you competed at, the Olivet Invitational, back in mid-September. And Sadie was named National Runner of the Week. That's a really nice 1-2 combo that you have up there. Can you talk about that? And then how some of the pack behind them now, you're working with them to try to narrow that gap behind and just kind of lower that time spread. And it looks like it's starting to happen.
Yeah. Sadie is a very talented runner, and she also has put in a ton of work. And so she's realizing the results of a lot of work, a lot of miles. And that's really fun to see. In a sense, I wish I had 3 more weeks, because I think that Sadie is coming into her own. She's just going through just a little bit of a training result. And so she's just a little bit back. But I think that if we had weeks and we had regionals and nationals, yes, I think that we would be very, very strong. So, but we have this abbreviated season, and we're thrilled to death that we have it, and we're doing really well with what we have. It'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend.
So moving over to the men's side, just found out that Justin Virano, a senior, has been named National Runner of the Week by the United States Cross Country Coaches Association, and he is one of 3 National Runners of the Week that you've had this year. Jonathan Ellis was one. He did that after your invitational that he won at Olivet. And let's see here. I'm trying to come up with let's see here. Who was it? Who was our number 2 guy? He's really come on this year.
Brandon
Nepper, who's a sophomore. So he ended up doing extremely well in our own invitational, won the race. And maybe you can just talk about those 3 and just the progression of the men's team this year.
Well, going to Justin, he just was our top runner this past Saturday at Muskegon, and I am so proud of him. He has really come around. You know, he was a very, very good runner in high school. Came here to Calvin and got off to a great start. But then he went through a little bit of a struggle for a year and a half, and just, you know, some low iron and just some difficulties in being able to do the kind of running that he wanted to do, and he stuck with it, and he didn't give up on it, and it's just so fun to see him out there running and enjoying the run and just running like the wind. On Saturday, he took off with the leaders, and he was out fast. I was concerned that he might have gone out too fast, but he didn't, and he just ran strong the entire race, stayed focused the whole 5 miles, and threw in some surges of his own, and finished really strong and just blazed the last sprint in. Very, very nice race, very mature racing, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And especially as a senior, it's awesome.
Well, we've talked a little bit about just how having a season, being able to get together as a team, running races has really been a positive as far as mental health is concerned, probably not only for your athletes, but for you yourself as a coach, the rest of the coaching staff. Can you just talk about how that's been a big positive for your program?
Well, I will never forget the after we were able to race at Olivet this September 19, and after a spring of cancellations, after a summer of, you know, just all kinds of talk about, well, I'm not sure if we're going to have a season or not, to actually go there and be able to race and be able to go out and challenge ourselves. These kids were euphoric. I can't tell you how full of gratitude they were to be able to race, to be able to go out and do what they love to do and challenge themselves. Just the way that they thought about themselves and carried themselves was like at 100% capacity. It was so healthy mentally and emotionally for them to be able to do that. And, you have to combine that with being safe, of course. Okay, so, we're running a cross country race out on a golf course. There's plenty of room, and they had alleys so that, when we raced, we stayed off into our alleys and we minimized the number of runners there were. So we were safe. We even finished in different alleys instead of having a common finish line. But I'll tell you, these kids being able to go out there and give 100% of what they had was so healthy for them. I really thanked Dr. Timmer for fighting and just trying to have a season, and President Leroy for sticking with it. So many of the other presidents just said, no, we're not going to do it. There's too many concerns and it's going to take too much work. But our university did it, and it made all the difference.
Well, we want to touch a little bit on the family tradition at Calvin. Of course, you've been the cross-country coach for, I think it's pushing 36 years now. Yeah. And, of course, you ran at the University of Michigan, ran in 3 Olympic Games and the steeplechase and all that type of thing. But you've certainly been a huge part of the fabric of Calvin University athletics over the years. But the rest of your family, extended family and immediate family, have been part of Calvin athletics. So let's just talk about your in-laws first of all. You were just mentioning your wife was a part of the first ever Calvin varsity women's track and field team, and then she had a sister who was a standout volleyball player who was part of a Final Four team for volleyball, a league MVP. I think that was Kim, and then let's see, Kelly, I think, was the All-American 400-meter runner who we had speak at the C Club Awards just a few years ago. She's a professor down in Kansas City area. And, they've really been a part of the rich tradition. So just talk about those 3 sisters there.
Yeah. Well, when I was dating Carrie, then my wife, Carrie, then I was at the University of Michigan, and she was at Calvin, and she joined Calvin's first track and field team. So she, the women's track and field team. And I wasn't at Calvin, but I spent time studying in the library at Calvin when I would come home and come home for the weekend. So Carrie ran for 2 years. And they even went to nationals in the relay, the 4x100 meter relay, and that was quite something. Of course, she's a Lautenbach, and Don and Shirley Lautenbach have been huge supporters of Calvin athletics, and so Kim and Kelly and Carrie all ran track and field, and Kim played volleyball, and of course, Jenna has played volleyball now at Calvin, and there's just been a great heritage of the Lautenbachs and Diemers that have gone to Calvin, and they've all gone on their own. They've all made their decision to come to Calvin on their own. Nobody forced them or twisted their arm, but my 3 daughters and my son came to Calvin, and they all participated in track and field, cross country, and it's been really good.
I think didn't Kelsey play a little basketball too, if I remember correctly? Well, of course, I remember you playing a little basketball back in the days. I've been a part of those Calvin cross country into the season parties. Those are interesting basketball games. That's for sure. There's no fast breaking or cherry picking. I can tell you that. Those guys get back on defense really well. Yeah. They can run.
Good
so,
stuff.
Speaking of running, I got to ask you a final question. So we recorded her interview a little earlier, and we asked Annie Needs if Coach Diemer was going to run a race in the women's cross country team. Where would he finish? Would he finish in the top 10, the top 7? You're saying number 1.
Number 1.
Number 1.
What these kids don't realize is, they physically, okay, I'm 59 now, and I may not be able to do everything that I used to do, but when the mind gets put to work, amazing things can happen.
I'm sure. Well, I will let the.
You would not beat me.
I would let the cat out of the bag. I will let the cat out of the bag and just say that Annie said that you would be in the top 7. You still are very speedy, but you would not beat her. So maybe
Well-
we'll have to see how fast you can run on Saturday.
Race going on.
Yeah, there you go.
Go figure it
So
out. Runs a steeplechase in track.
yeah, I know it.
That.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be exciting. So yeah, final question then. So Saturday, there is a meet at Calvin. We're kind of unofficially calling it the Calvin Crazy Year Championships because this has been a wild and crazy year. So who's coming to compete, and what can we expect?
It's just going to be Olivet and Adrian and ourselves, and that agreement was made early on with the athletic directors and the presidents of our three schools. Trine had said that they were going to do that, but now they have ended their season. So it's just going to be the three of our schools, but we have all agreed to testing, and we have agreed to safe protocol. And you know what? It has been so worthwhile going through the extra steps, allowing these kids to be able to train, to be able to race, to be able to look forward to something. It has been very healthy. So all of our kids and coaches are extremely grateful to be able to have this season.
Well, we're grateful to have you as our head coach, and grateful to have a chance to follow you this fall with actual competition. It's been a lot of fun, and we want to thank you for stopping by and taking the time to talk to us. Thank you, Brian.
You're very welcome. Now, hopefully I don't pull my hamstring trying to out-train now that I feel like I have to show her who's boss.
Well, the gauntlet has been thrown down. What can we say? Well, it should be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Well, that was a great interview with Coach Diemer, and we, again, thanks, Febus. We'll bring him back a little bit later in the show. Tonight's student-athlete interview brought to you by Lake Michigan Credit Union. Lake Michigan Credit Union has more ways for your money to earn even more. Choose from CDs, health savings accounts, nationally recognized credit cards, and a checking account Money Magazine called the best checking account in America. Well, our student-athlete interview tonight is Any Needs from our women's cross-country program. And I'm going to turn over to my co-host, Ryan Souders, as he takes us through Annie's season.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Annie, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Tell me, where are you coming from right now? Where does this interview find you?
Right now I'm in my bedroom at my college house.
Sounds good. And originally, you're not from the Grand Rapids area. Can you tell us, where do you call home?
So I'm from Peru, Illinois, which is about 2 hours west of Chicago on Interstate 80.
Okay. And how did you find Calvin? How did you end up coming to Calvin University?
So my older sister actually visited Calvin and decided not to come here. But then a few years later, I visited and really enjoyed it. I'm in the engineering department, and so it's pretty rare to have a good engineering department and good athletics in a D3 school.
For sure. We like you better than her anyway, so that's awesome. Next question. Tell us a bit about your fall. Obviously, a unique fall in terms of, what you were prepping for versus what you've carried out. Tell us kind of, A, what the fall has actually looked like for you on a day-to-day basis, and B, kind of how you and your team dealt with that kind of as you transitioned into this part of your year.
Yeah, so it's definitely been different than I had imagined, but it's been a good season. So the day-to-day looks a lot like separating into smaller pods. Our women's team is actually pretty small this year. We have 17 women on it. But so we split into 2 separate pods, which works really well for our daily runs. Our workouts are also split into pods. That also works well. And then the season itself is a lot shorter than normal. We're done this upcoming weekend. And the meets have been a lot smaller, usually between, the typical size was 3 to 4 teams. Actually, this past weekend, we had a race with 10 teams, but each of the teams only had 4 women. Our team was the largest with our 17. So that's looked a bit different, but overall, it's been a really good season.
Okay, and to be honest, every time I'm checking, I don't know if they call them box scores in running. I don't know if that's a thing, but you guys are like just destroying the fields. Can you talk about that? Was there a particular training? Is it just you're frustrated you don't get to race, or you're taking it out on other teams? It just seems to have been and really an excellent fall, on the scoreboard. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we've had a really good developing season. We have a lot of girls coming back who have made a lot of great strides in their running careers. And we've also had some runners, both freshmen and sophomore newbies. As for scoring, there's definitely a lot of teams missing from the races we've been running that we would normally be competing with. But we've really held our own, especially against, we raced Trine University a couple weeks ago, and they were someone we were pretty evenly matched with. And so that was a really good competitive race.
Cool. Well, I don't know if you knew this, but you actually have something in common with Dr. Timmer and myself. So one of the things you do is you run tons of miles every day.
Yeah.
And we do that too, but the opposite. Like we never actually run. So a question from someone who doesn't run to someone who does, right? So I got to imagine, other than the excruciating pain of running more than 10 to 15 feet, like your mind plays tricks on you. Like in a training run, you're putting together 10, 12, 15-mile runs. Like what is going through your head? Like I never see you guys with music. I mean, maybe you're talking to yourselves, but that's got to run out. I mean, what are you playing in your head for all that time?
Honestly, a lot of the time we're just talking to each other. It's really nice being able to run in even our smaller pods, being with teammates. That makes a huge difference compared to running alone. We like to talk to each other. We talk about just about anything, how our days went, what we ate for lunch, how things are going. Just really any topic is fair game when we're running.
Yeah, must be nice to be able to like understand the people and not hear death panting while you're moving.
And I'm always thinking about food when I'm running.
We talk about food too.
The difference is they've earned theirs, Jim.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
any last question for you as you head into, you said you have a last race this upcoming Saturday, and certainly good luck there. As you come into the winter, and a lot of athletes then transition into maybe indoor track or indoor, outdoor track and field. What is your individual and your team's plan as you kind of head into this winter and spring season? What are you hoping for? What are you training for? What are you hoping things look like?
So we've been told there's an indoor conference meet, so we're really looking forward to that. We're hoping that more teams in the MIAA will be able to race at that point. I guess both race and field events for track and field. One of the uncertainties is what practicing indoors will look like. The winters aren't necessarily nice to outdoor athletes.
Sure.
So that will be interesting. But as for the spring semester, or the spring sport, I guess kind of same thing, hoping for a MIAA conference with more competition, more teams. More competition just makes it even more exciting to beat them. So,
man, hear that. We'll certainly be pulling for you. I'm gonna hand it back over to Jim, and I think he's got just a few more questions for you to round out. So thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, Annie, it's been great catching up with you, and I always think these are really interesting ways that people get to know our student athletes besides their GPAs and their times on the cross country course or on the track. So I'll call this segment 24 seconds. 24 was 24/7 with Timmer. 7 questions in 24 seconds. It'll be longer than that because I'm always longer than 24 seconds. So here you go. First question. Last song that you played on your Spotify, iTunes. What last song did you listen to?
The song 8 by Billie Eilish.
Ooh, Billie Eilish. That's a big one with the young folks these days. I get that. TV show you last binged watched?
I just finished The Umbrella Academy. Very good show.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
I am old, man. I tell you that. Favorite color? Come on, I can.
Yellow. Pale yellow. Mm-hmm.
Pale, not Calvin Gold, but pale yellow. All right. What is your racing shoe?
I wear New Balances. New Balance racing shoes. Yep.
Really? Are you a Nike person at all for running?
I was in high school, but I have since transitioned to Saucony and New Balance.
Oh man. Okay. Maybe that's my problem. I wear Nike when I run. I got to go to New Balance.
That's what it
is. Yeah.
Favorite class at Kelvin?
Ooh, that's hard. Can I give you 3?
Yeah.
I try to get soccer guys to come up with 1. So
go ahead, give me 3.
Okay, top 3. I really loved my intro to philosophy class. My biochemistry class is one of my favorite classes. And this is strange, but I really enjoyed my thermodynamics class. I thought it was really interesting.
Those are the exact same 3 classes that Febus, myself, and Souders would list. I think I'll take the thermodynamics, and Souders the philosophy, and Febus the other one. All right, 2 more. Loudest teammate.
Oh, that's a tough one. We've got some.
Delaney Saul.
She is pretty loud. I'm gonna have to go with Taylor Tempass. She's a fellow senior with me. She's pretty loud. She's a good cheerer.
All right, good. All right, this one might put you in trouble with your coach. So imagine a race. So Diemer's in the race Saturday on our course, running in the women's race with his team.
Oh.
Where does he finish on your team? You got 17.
He runs the full.
He's an Olympian. He's older now.
He's still pretty speedy. I'd give him top 7. I give him top 7.
So you're gonna beat him.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, hey, again, I want to thank you for throwing this together with us. We appreciate it. We're gonna cheer you on. I'll be there Saturday. And looking forward to it. So thank you, Annie.
Thanks,
awesome.
Annie.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yep. Well, that brings us to another end of another episode of the Roundtable. And as we like to do, we like to give you a little preview of what's coming up in Kelvin Athletics over the next couple of weeks. And we're going to turn to Jeff to that, and we'll preview next episode.
Yeah. So for this week, we've been having these Kelvin inter-squad games. So volleyball has an inter-squad match on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. and also Friday at 7. And if I recall my data, I think it's roughly the first 180 or so fans that show up are allowed to come in, and you have to sign in, do the contact tracing and all that type of thing. If you come out to the soccer pitch, and I'll get to that in a minute, I think you have to sign the contact tracing, but there's a little bit more room for you to sit. So let's see here. Women's soccer, as of right now, has an inter-squad game Friday at 7. That's all weather permitting. And then men's soccer is scheduled to have an inter-squad Saturday at 3 p.m. Cross-country teams actually have their own Kelvin I guess we're calling it the Kelvin Championships is what we're calling it this Saturday at the Gainey Athletic Complex. And 11 a.m. is the men's race, and the women will follow at noon. Jim, you might have to fill me in on, I know back in September when we were under different rules, it was 2 spectators per athlete. I'm not sure if that's still the number that we're working with right now, or things are a little different.
No, that's what we're doing right now.
Curious, Jeff, can you run untethered in that meet? As you know, with the championships, I thought Jim might want to get out there and see if he could hoist it.
That would be some good video for Seed Club.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
We can do a little TikTok video.
Hey, Ryan, any words for the next 2 weeks for Night Nation, or any thoughts here as you end before I plug next episode?
I'd just say we got a couple weeks left in kind of our fall go at things. So certainly an encouragement to anyone listening. Finish up strong in your fall sports, winter sports. We'll be handing off the baton, and man, just love this roundtable. Excited for next week, and excited to see Jim running untethered on Saturday at the Calvin Championship.
Well, again, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank our guests tonight, Brian Diemer, Coach Brian Diemer, and Senior Annie Needs, Jeff and Ryan. Always a pleasure. Next episode, we're hoping to have swim and dive coach Dan Garolos and an alumni spotlight, which we'll leave as a surprise. So with that, we bid you adieu and have a great night.